They told you Jesus healed through miracles, that at his word, the blind could see, that his touch restored lepers to wholeness, that he even raised the dead with the power of his voice alone. But what they often leave out is how he prepared himself for these extraordinary acts. Each miracle he performed began the night before in stillness, in rest, immersed in darkness. He wasn't simply asleep. He was entering into the very mind of God. What if I told you that your dreams aren't just random occurrences, that every night as you close your eyes and surrender to the darkness, you're actually crossing a threshold your ancestors revered as sacred? What if sleep is actually a forgotten temple for your soul? The established church isn't likely to teach you this. In fact, they can't. Because if you truly understood what Jesus did in the hours leading up to dawn, you'd realize that you've had access to the very same power all along. To truly grasp this, you need to journey back to those nights before his healings began. Not to the miracles themselves, not to the crowds or the daylight or the testimonies, but back to the darkness, because that's where the real story unfolds. By the time this video ends, you'll never look at closing your eyes in the same way again. There was a time when the night wasn't something to be feared. Long before alarm clocks and artificial light, before we sought to conquer the darkness with electricity and constant stimulation, there were communities who understood something profound that we've since forgotten. They called the night their second sanctuary, a sacred space. Imagine this with me, the desert in the 1st century, with stars so densely packed that you could almost see the breadth of entire galaxies. Oil lamps cast flickering shadows in small stone dwellings, where men and women gathered not for work, not for socializing, but for preparation. These were the Essenes, a mystical Jewish sect, living on the fringes of society, preserving ancient wisdom, while the religious establishment became increasingly corrupt and empty. They donned white robes, they cleansed themselves in ritual waters, and they studied scripture with a devotion that went far beyond mere memorization. And they held a belief that the Pharisees had long since abandoned, that every dream was a message from the divine, that every night was a return to the Garden of Eden. They didn't view sleep as simply a biological necessity. They saw it as a communion, a doorway, a place where the veil between heaven and earth thinned to the point where you could hear the voice of God without any interference. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they didn't just collapse into unconsciousness. Instead, they prepared themselves to meet the divine. And this is where it becomes critically important. Jesus was raised among them, not in the synagogues of Jerusalem, not in the temple courts where priests performed lifeless rituals for a God they no longer truly knew. He was nurtured in the wilderness, in communities that still remembered the true purpose of the night. When he withdrew to pray, he wasn't simply escaping the throngs of people. He was returning to a practice he had been taught since childhood, the practice of sacred rest. But here's what the church often omits: the part that was deliberately scrubbed from history, edited out by councils who desired a savior you could worship but never emulate. The Essenes taught that while the body sleeps, the soul remains active, that in the realm of sleep you are closest to your true nature, undefended, unmasked, free from ego and fear, simply consciousness meeting consciousness. And in that space, true healing occurs. Not the kind of healing that requires strenuous effort, willpower, or worthiness, but the kind that happens when you cease striving, when you finally surrender, when you trust so completely that your body remembers what your mind has forgotten, that you are already inherently whole. The Essenes understood this. They practiced it diligently, and they passed on its wisdom. And Jesus, he mastered it completely. Every single night before he performed miracles that would resonate through the ages, he deliberately and fully entered this state with a surrender most people only experience accidentally in those fleeting moments, just before sleep, when everything finally softens. The same stars that look down upon him still watch over you. The same silence he entered still awaits you. But here's the question that should be burning within you right now. What exactly did he do in the dark? What was the specific practice, the preparation, the secret that transformed an ordinary night's rest into the very foundation for supernatural healing? Because if you're one of those being called to remember, you need to know this. And it was in that profound stillness of night that Jesus began the preparation for his greatest acts. Let me reveal something hidden in plain sight. Open your Bible to any gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and begin to count how many times it says phrases like these: he withdrew. He went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place. After he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. Again and again and again, the pattern is unmistakable. Before every major miracle, before healing the multitudes, before raising Lazarus from the dead, before walking on water, before calming the storm, he withdrew. He rested. He prayed alone. But here's what the Sunday school version conveniently leaves out. This wasn't about fatigue. This wasn't simply Jesus being an introvert who needed to recharge his social batteries. This was about alignment. You see, the Greek word used in the New Testament for withdrew is anakorio. It means to retreat. But the root of the word carries a deeper meaning. It means to return to a place of origin, to go back to the source. Every time Jesus withdrew into the night, into rest, into solitude, he was returning to that source. He was re-entering the consciousness of the Father. And here's where it becomes both mystical and scientific at the same time, because the ancients understood something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to rediscover. When you sleep, your brain doesn't simply shut down. Instead, it reorganizes it, processes information, and it heals. During REM sleep, your brain waves slow down and sink into theta rhythms, the very same frequency that mystics enter during deep meditation, the same state that shamans called journeying, the same realm that the Essenes believed was the threshold of heaven. Science calls it REM. The mystics called it revelation. And Jesus, he didn't just passively experience it. He used it intentionally, deliberately. Before he healed others, he allowed heaven to heal him through rest, through surrender, through a trust so complete that his human mind could finally step aside and allow divinity to move freely through him. Let me share the story of the night before he healed the woman with the issue of blood. The Gospels don't explicitly record what happened that night, but if you understand the pattern, you can see it clearly. She had been bleeding for 12 long years, 12 years of suffering, shame, and isolation, 12 years of being deemed unclean by a religious system that had absolutely no power to help her. She had spent every last penny she had on physicians, but nothing had worked. And then one morning she heard that Jesus was passing through. But here's what she didn't know the night before. In the hours while she tossed and turned in desperation, Jesus had already entered the realm where healing originates. Not in his waking mind, not through human effort, but in the deep rest where his consciousness merged with the Father's. The body sleeps, but the soul continues the work of God. And so when she touched the hem of his garment the next day, she wasn't just touching fabric. She was touching a man who had become a walking threshold, a man so deeply aligned with the source that power flowed from him effortlessly without him even trying. He felt it leave him. "Who touched me?" he asked, because healing isn't something you do, it's something you become a conduit for. And that conduit is built in the night, in the rest, in the sacred surrender that most people never learn. Or consider another example the night before. He raised Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. His sisters were inconsolable. The mourners had already gathered. Everyone had given up all hope. But before Jesus even arrived in Bethany, before he stood at that tomb and called out, "Lazarus, come forth," he had already journeyed to the realm where death has no dominion, not metaphorically, but literally. In his sleep in that space between human consciousness and divine awareness, he had already walked in the dimension where life and death are simply frequencies, where a word spoken from the right level of consciousness can rearrange matter itself. You think he was just sleeping? Not at all. He was preparing the way. Let me ask you something. Have you ever woken up with the solution to a problem that you couldn't solve the day before? Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so real, that it felt like you actually lived it? Have you ever experienced a healing in your body overnight? Pain that simply vanished, inflammation that disappeared, clarity that returned. You've tasted it. You've touched the same realm that he entered deliberately. The difference is he knew what he was doing. He'd been trained, he'd practiced, he'd mastered the art of sacred sleep. And here's the part that should make your heart race with excitement. He said that you could do it too. Greater works than these shall you do, not because you're special, not because you've earned it, but because the same spirit that rested in him now rests in you, the same consciousness that healed through him now breathes through you. The same realm he entered every night is waiting for you tonight. But what he entered each night wasn't just sleep. It was a passage, a doorway, and it's been almost completely erased from history until now. Every night you engage in an act you've performed thousands of times. You close your eyes, you let go of the day, and you surrender your thoughts, your worries, your identity, your story. For a few precious hours, you stop being you. You don't consciously think about it. You simply let go. But what if I told you that this act, this ordinary nightly surrender, is actually the purest form of prayer that exists? Not the kind of prayer you were taught in church. Not the recited words or the religious postures or the desperate begging for mercy from a distant God. I'm talking about the kind of prayer that transcends words, the prayer of absolute trust. This is what Jesus understood when he said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." He wasn't merely talking about a nap. He was referring to this, the rest that heals the soul, the surrender that opens the gates of heaven, the trust that whispers, "I don't have to control this anymore." In the Greek, the word he used for rest is anapsychos. It doesn't just mean cessation of work. It signifies restoration, refreshment, the kind of deep cellular renewal that can only occur when you cease fighting. And here's the key. Sleep was his metaphor for the very kingdom itself. Think about it. What happens when you drift off to sleep? Your conscious mind, the one that constantly plans, worries, judges, and controls, finally steps aside. Your ego dissolves, your defenses crumble, and all the masks you wear during the day simply fall away. And what remains, pure being consciousness without the limitations of a story, awareness without the weight of armor. This is what he called the kingdom of God. Not a distant place you go to when you die, not a reward for virtuous behavior, but a state of being that you can enter every single night, provided you know how to approach it. The Essenes taught that sleep was the small death, a practice run, a nightly rehearsal for what mystics call dying before you die. Because in sleep you release everything, your name, your history, your pain, your very identity. And for those precious hours you exist as pure consciousness. The same consciousness that created the stars, that beats your heart, that knows how to heal your body without you having to consciously think about it. This is precisely why Jesus devoted so much time to rest before performing his miracles. He wasn't simply recharging his batteries. He was actively practicing surrender. Every night he would lay down his human will, his human fears, and his human limitations. And he would offer the same prayer that would later echo from the cross. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, not just once, but every single night. And in that profound act of surrender, something extraordinary happened that most people never consciously experience. He merged. His human consciousness and divine consciousness became one unified stream, one singular awareness, one boundless power. This is the secret they don't want you to know. Because if you truly realized that the same process happens to you every night, that you too have access to this very same state, you wouldn't need the priests anymore. You wouldn't need the elaborate rituals or the self-proclaimed intermediaries or the institutions that falsely claim to stand between you and God. You'd realize that the temple already resides within you and that the doorway opens every single night. Let me describe something you've likely felt but never quite had the words for. You know that fleeting moment right before you finally drift off to sleep, when your body feels heavy and warm, and your thoughts begin to gently drift, and there's a sense of profound softness, a peace that doesn't originate from any external source. A quietude that feels like coming home. You've tasted it. That's the threshold, that's the very edge of the kingdom. And most people simply cross it unconsciously, accidentally, without ever realizing that they're standing at the doorway to everything Jesus taught. But what if you could intentionally enter it deliberately? What if, like him, you could approach sleep not as a collapse, but as a sacred communion? What if tonight, when you close your eyes, you did so in the same way he did, with intention, with reverence, with the deep understanding that you're not simply shutting down for the night, but rather opening yourself up to the divine? This is what the early Christians practiced before the church morphed into an empire. This is what the desert fathers and mothers intimately knew. This is what the mystics have always taught in hushed whispers, in shadows, in coded language that only those who were truly ready to remember could possibly understand. Sleep is not the absence of consciousness, it's the return to it. And Jesus mastered the art of crossing that threshold while fully awake. So let me ask you, are you still here? If your heart remains open in this moment, if something deep within you is stirring, if you feel like you've heard this before in a language older than words, then you're not just passively watching this video. You're actively remembering. And remembrance is always the very first step. But now comes the part that truly changes everything. Because what if you could intentionally enter that same sacred state in the same way that he did? What if tonight could be profoundly different from every other night you've ever known? Let me walk you through something, not as mere theory, not as abstract theology, but as a practical exercise. Before Jesus closed his eyes each night, he did something that most people never even consider. He cleared the field. You see, the realm you enter during sleep is not entirely separate from the consciousness you carry throughout the day. It's more like a continuation, a deepening. And whatever you're holding on to when you cross that threshold comes with you. If you fall asleep in fear, you'll undoubtedly dream in fear. If you fall asleep in anger, you'll marinate in that anger all night long. But if you fall asleep in peace, in trust, and in forgiveness, your body receives that healing frequency for 8 hours straight, and profound healing naturally occurs. So here's what he did. Every single night in the hours before sunset gave way to darkness. First, he forgave everyone. Every offense, every betrayal, every misunderstanding, every hurt. Not because they necessarily deserved it, but because he did. Because carrying resentment into sleep is like willingly drinking poison and somehow expecting someone else to die. It only harms the one who is holding on to it. The Gospel of Thomas actually records something that the canonical Gospels conveniently left out. Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Forgiveness is precisely how you bring it forth. Not as a mere moral obligation, not as some religious duty, but as a profound act of release. So before you close your eyes tonight, I want you to try something. Bring to mind everyone who hurt you today, everyone who triggered you, everyone who misunderstood you or dismissed you or made you feel small. See their faces and then say this out loud or simply in your heart. I release you. I forgive you. You no longer have any power over my peace. Really feel it. Don't rush it. Allow the weight to lift. Because here's what most people fail to realize: unforgiveness is a chain that binds you, not them. And when you go to sleep holding on to that chain, you drag it with you into the holy realm where healing is desperately trying to reach you. Jesus understood this implicitly, so he practiced forgiveness every single night. Not just once, not as some one-time event, but as a daily cleansing, a nightly release. Second, he released control. This is often the hardest one because control is the very language of fear, and most of us speak it fluently. We constantly try to manage every single outcome. We tightly grip our carefully laid plans and our rigid expectations and our own limited ideas of how things should be. And then we carry that tension with us into the night, and we wonder why we wake up feeling completely exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep. Jesus had a phrase for this: "Thy will be done, not my agenda, not my timeline, not my limited understanding of what's actually best, but yours." This is the prayer of ultimate trust, and it's not passive resignation, it's actually profound power. Because when you stop trying so desperately to control everything, you create the sacred space for something far greater than your own limited human perspective to finally move. So tonight, before you sleep, I want you to practice this with me. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for just a moment, and as you exhale, whisper these words: I release my need to control. I trust the process. I surrender to what's trying to emerge. Feel your body soften, feel your chest open. That's not weakness, that's actually divine alignment. Third, he visualized light, not as some new age technique, not as simple positive thinking, but as a profound act of remembrance of what he actually was. I am the light of the world. He said not, I have light, not, I reflect light, but I am. And so are you. So here's the practice. As you lie in bed tonight, surrounded by quiet darkness, I want you to gently close your eyes and vividly imagine this, a warm, golden light rising from your heart. Soft, alive, and radiant. See it expand with every breath you take, filling your chest, your throat, your head. Then let it pour down into your belly, your legs, your feet, until your whole body is glowing from within. And then gently hear these words, not from me, but from the deepest part of yourself. I am light. I am whole. I am loved. This isn't visualization for simple manifestation. This is remembrance. You're not trying to create something entirely new. You're remembering what has always been fundamentally true. And when you fall asleep holding this awareness, your body receives it as instruction. Your cells listen, your nervous system recalibrates, and your consciousness aligns with truth instead of fear. This is what Jesus did every single night. And it's precisely why his very presence felt like powerful medicine to everyone who came near him. He wasn't inherently special. He was deeply aligned. Now here's the very final piece of the practice right before sleep. As your eyelids grow heavy and your thoughts begin to gently drift. Speak this prayer not as a desperate request, but as a powerful declaration, "Father, into your hands I rest my spirit." Allow those words to be the very last thing your conscious mind holds on to. Not your lengthy to-do list, not your overwhelming worries, not your detailed plans for tomorrow, but just trust. Pure, complete, childlike trust. And then simply let go. If something deep inside you just softened while I was speaking, if your breathing subtly changed, if you felt your shoulders drop or your jaw unclench, that's not a mere coincidence. That's remembrance. Your body already knows this practice. Your soul has undoubtedly done it before. In lifetimes, you don't consciously remember in long-forgotten temples that no longer exist in mystery schools that were burned and buried and deliberately erased. But the memory lives within you, deeply encoded in your very being. And when you consciously practice this tonight, you're not simply learning something new, you're reclaiming something ancient and essential. So let it mark you. If you can feel this frequency alive in your chest right now, leave a small sign in the comments below. Simply type these 3 powerful words, "I am awakening." Something simple, something deeply true. Let others know that they are not alone in remembering. Because the real miracle didn't simply happen when he woke up. It happened while he slept. In that profound moment of absolute surrender, absolute trust, and absolute alignment, heaven and earth became undeniably one. And the body, without effort, without striving, without even trying, simply remembered how to be whole. There's a fundamental law that most people don't even know exists. Not a law explicitly written in Scripture, not a law enforced by human governments, but a law deeply woven into the very fabric of reality itself. Consciousness precedes form. Let me say that again, for emphasis: consciousness precedes form. Your body is not a mere machine that generates thoughts. It's actually the complete opposite. Your body is a living reflection, a physical manifestation of the very consciousness you hold. And here's the terrifying yet profoundly beautiful truth. Every single cell in your body is constantly listening to you. Not to your spoken words, not even to your well-intentioned intentions, but to your overall state of being. When you fall asleep in fear, your body receives the immediate instruction: we are unsafe. Conserve energy. Shut down any non-essential systems. Prepare for a potential threat. And your immune system inevitably weakens, your inflammation levels dramatically rise, and your entire nervous system remains perpetually locked in survival mode. But when you fall asleep in trust and peace, in the unwavering awareness of your true nature, your body receives a completely different set of instructions. We are safe, we are whole, we are deeply loved. Heal. And it naturally does not because you somehow earned it, not because you're somehow worthy of it, but simply because that's precisely what bodies are designed to do when consciousness aligns with the fundamental truth. This is what Jesus understood at a level that most people never even reach. He knew that the body fundamentally obeys consciousness, that miracles are not simply violations of natural law, but rather profound expressions of a higher law that most people never even access. When he said to the paralyzed man, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk," he wasn't merely commanding the man's muscles. He was directly commanding the man's consciousness. He was speaking directly to the level of awareness that ultimately controls the body, the level that most people only touch in moments of deep sleep, in profound prayer, in acts of absolute surrender. And the man's body immediately obeyed, not because Jesus possessed some magical powers, but because he had deeply mastered the art of alignment. And a crucial part of that mastery, perhaps the most important part of all, was what he did every single night. He fell asleep in the very consciousness of the kingdom. Not in fear, not in crippling doubt, not in painful separation, but in profound oneness, in inherent wholeness, in the unwavering awareness that the Father and He were not two separate beings, but one unified stream of consciousness expressing itself through a human form. And when you sleep in that very state, your body heals. Let me illustrate how this process unfolds. When you're in deep sleep, your body shifts into a comprehensive restoration mode. Your brain actively flushes out toxins, cellular regeneration occurs. Your immune defenses become stronger, and hormones find their balance. Inflammation is reduced. Science has thoroughly documented these restorative processes. However, what science is just beginning to fully grasp is that the quality of this nocturnal healing is intrinsically linked to the state of consciousness you carry with you into sleep. If you're burdened by stress as you drift off, your cortisol levels remain elevated, preventing your body from fully accessing the parasympathetic state, which is essential for profound healing. Conversely, if you embrace sleep in a state of genuine peace, and I emphasize not a superficial forced positivity, your nervous system completely downregulates. Your heart rate variability increases, signaling to your cells that it's safe to engage in repair and rejuvenation. This is why Jesus' miracles appeared so effortless. He wasn't struggling or striving. He was simply allowing the natural order of a higher state of consciousness to manifest through his being. He cultivated this capacity each night during those quiet hours when the world was asleep, connecting with the realm where healing originates. There's a passage in the Gospel of Mark that often gets overlooked due to hasty reading. Jesus is in a boat with his disciples when a sudden intense storm arises, so violent that waves are crashing over the sides. These are seasoned fishermen, yet even they fear for their lives. And where is Jesus? He's asleep in the stern of the boat, resting peacefully on a cushion, completely undisturbed by the chaos surrounding him. In a panic, they wake him exclaiming, "Teacher, don't you care that we're perishing?" Still in that liminal state between sleep and wakefulness, he rises and addresses the storm as if speaking to an overexcited child. "Peace, be still." Instantly, the wind ceases, the waves subside, and a profound calm descends. The disciples are overcome with terror, even more so than they were during the storm. "Who is this man?" they whisper, amazed that even the wind and the sea obey him. But here's the key point they missed. Jesus wasn't controlling the storm. He simply maintained a state of consciousness where storms held no power over him. He seamlessly transitioned that state from sleep into his waking life, never severing the connection, never succumbing to fear. He remained aligned, and reality reorganized itself in accordance with his consciousness. This is the mystery, the secret often omitted in theological studies. The external world, encompassing your health, your circumstances, and even the physical elements, responds to your consciousness. And the consciousness you cultivate in sleep lays the groundwork for everything you experience upon waking, upon waking, upon waking, upon waking.